6 hours this guy drones on. It is the worst I've ever experienced. He's insulting. He yells at the prosecutor, called him stupid 2 or 3 times. Every time he writes something down, he rips out the page like over dramatic and he stacks it in the middle. And this is a legitimate court process. So I open up this motion. In the first paragraph, it starts off referencing the 2004 movie Anchorman. The defense attorney actually said Soirees' tracks program is as reliable as Sex Panther, and the creator, Soiree, is just like the sleazy field reporter Brian Fantana.
They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, let's go see if we can make this little kitty purr.
Welcome to Socialite Crime Club. Kind of three-ring circus are we bringing socialites today?
You always hear about all of these hearings that happen before the actual trial. We're going to examine the underbelly of the legal system and what some of these hearings contain. We're also going to reveal I'm not a big fan of defense attorneys. Last week, we talked about scientific challenges, Colorado versus Jones, a bunch of technical stuff. We got to go easy on our listeners this week. No technical stuff, no thinking required.
Oh, this will be nice.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. Yeah, it's enjoyable. And we are going to talk briefly about a little bit of maybe kind of a double homicide, but we're going to stay out of those details.
It's not the focus.
Yeah, we're going to keep this one pretty light. This is actually kind of a funny story. So I want to get into another case that happens after the Jones case, but because of the Jones case. And for those of you that didn't listen, we talked about a crazy court hearing that we kind of took
It's the first shit sandwich you have to eat after the Jones case.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, is we kind of got this bad ruling from a judge and the nation just grasped onto it, right? It was kind of bad. And one of the first cases that came out as a result is we had this case out of another state. I'll talk about this in a minute. And they were using the Jones case as the example of why I am just this terrible, terrible person.
An unreliable expert.
Oh, it's going to get even worse than that. So we talked a little bit last week, too, about the different types of hearings. In Colorado, it was a Shrek hearing for Jones. In California, it's Kelly. This particular state, which will remain nameless, is going to be a Daubert standard. And not that our listeners at home need to know. It's just another scientific challenge. So why not name the state?
Because you would have a lawsuit on your hands.
I'm going to pick on a defense attorney today. And I need him to remain anonymous as well as the case in the state because he will sue me. He does not like me. And I don't really like him either, so it's fair. But I'm not going to sue him, and I just don't want to get sued.
And if he gets found out, it's, again, his own fault.
Well, he's kind of already done this, so we'll just let him keep doing what he's doing. But yeah, he will sue me, and he's just the type of guy. I don't worry about the lawsuit. I just worry about the headache that it's going to cause, if you will.
He was already a headache.
So how does this all start? It's a double homicide, carjacking, arson, tampering. It's a pretty big case. And they used our phone system, the tracks program.
The state used it.
The state did, to map the suspects' movements. And they're pretty dramatic movements. It's not like the Colorado case where, oh, look, he's in this one area. It was literally tracking him around town and interacting with different surveillance video. And it's not like, oh, that car is on surveillance. It's him with the 2 victims on surveillance cameras.
There's a lot of corroborative evidence.
A ton of corroborative evidence in this case. But it was really powerful. When you put the phone records on top of everything else, it tells the story. You can hit the play button and just sit back and you'd be like, oh, that guy did it, right? So really powerful.
Very damning.
Yes. So the defense has to do something. They've got to somehow get this suppressed so it does not go in front of the jury.
Sure.
They wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't. So it's a common trend. I've dealt with this throughout my entire career. I used to tell people all the time because I would meet other people that have been detectives for like 20 years. And they've kind of bragged about like, never had a suppression hearing. Never had a defense attorney try to suppress anything I've done. And I would always tell them, well, that's because your work sucks.
Yeah.
If you're doing something impactful that hurts the defense, it's the defense's job to suppress it.
Right.
At least try. So yeah, it happens a lot. It's not, there's something wrong. It's not this weird thing that, oh, they're trying to suppress this. What's wrong with it? It's their job.
That, or they've just never been challenged before. Right. In the courtroom.
Right. So we were talking last time too in Colorado where we had kind of moved on. I wasn't working cases anymore. Colorado happens. Then this stuff starts to come out. And I explained, I kind of went on this 18-month road trip around the United States defending these cases. And I kind of got upset about it. Like I got pissed.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that we needed to do this episode to explain, why would you get pissed? I got an email from a prosecutor one day, not too long after Jones. Attached to this email was a motion to exclude. It's not abnormal. I get these all the time. And just so people are tracking this process, the defense will file the motion to suppress typically. The state will respond, and then they'll typically file a hearing to take some type of oral arguments or testimony. So the defense had filed their motion. The state was preparing a response at this point, and the prosecutor reached out to me and said, hey, I'm responding to this motion. Take a look at this. So we're in the very early phases of this. And before I get into what the motion said, I want to talk about something for just a minute. Court decorum.
Etiquette in court.
Professionalism in the courtroom is gone. I don't know what has happened the last 3 to 5 years. Really after COVID. I think what happened is a lot of courts started doing like Zoom court.
Online court.
And people got lazy and they got lax and the judges got lax. And, you know, that's a slippery slope. Once you allow a couple things, the floodgates come open. I am alarmed at the amount of the lack of court decorum that I've seen over the last few years. And this case is going to be front and center on why I feel that way. And I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time not agreeing with me on this. So I open up this motion, and in the first paragraph, it starts off referencing the 2004 movie Anchorman.
That's a long time ago movie.
Yeah, Anchorman with Will Ferrell. It's a comedy. It's not just a comedy. Like it's an over-the-top slapstick style, offensive style comedy, if you will.
It would be probably canceled today.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, well, Will Ferrell could probably get away with it, but most would be canceled for 100%. And I remember thinking, who references Will Ferrell and Anchorman in a legitimate motion? But it gets worse. By the second sentence, the defense attorney is talking about the actor Paul Rudd, who is playing the role of Brian Fantana.
Okay.
Now, Brian Fantana, you know when you watch the morning news and they always have that one quirky, weird, somewhat
Anchor
sleazy, not anchor, the field reporter who's going out and at the pumpkin festival or the wiener dog race or I don't know, the new hot dog stand opened up downtown.
They're never dressed nicely. They're kind of sloppy looking.
Yeah, and you're like, ugh, if I met that guy at a bar, I would not have a beer with him.
Right.
Right? And he actually says, he quotes, Paul Rudd played the role of this sleazy field reporter. Oh. And I don't know if you remember the movie, but they're all in Will Ferrell's office. And Paul Rudd, Brian Fantana, is talking about how he picks up women. Okay. And he's got a secret weapon to pick up women, and it's his cologne. And he has Sex Panther.
Sex Panther.
There's a whole clip about Sex Panther.
Okay.
And he explains to Will Ferrell, when I put this on, the women can't resist me. No woman can ever resist you. And Will Ferrell asks him, does it really work? And he says, yeah, 50% of the time it works 60% of the time.
Oh my gosh.
And it's funny in a movie.
Yeah.
Not in a defense motion targeting me.
Oh, he was comparing you to Sex Panther?
No.
This guy?
The defense attorney actually said, soirees Tracks program is as reliable as Sex Panther cologne, where 50% of the time it works 60% of the time. And the creator, Soiree, is just like the sleazy field reporter, Brian Fantana.
And the judge allowed this.
Well, the judge, he files it, then the judge gets it. So the judge doesn't have a choice to allow it. But yes, it's going forward. This is a motion that I'm going to have to fly across the country. And I'm going to have to sit in court and testify why I'm not Brian Fantana and the Tracks program isn't Sex Panther.
Did this guy just snort a line of before he wrote that and then sent it off? How do you do that?
My attorney has advised me not to respond to that type of question.
Sorry.
Anyway, but this is real. It actually happened. And I'm just flabbergasted. And he goes on and he's attacking all kinds of other stuff. And I'm just like, is this really happening? So when I say, I kind of have a thing with defense attorneys where I'm like, really? You're defending the double murder suspect. He clearly did it. Mm-hmm. And I'm the sleazy one in this picture.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of defense attorneys do have to go through a bunch of hoops in order to show that they're doing their job.
Right. Yeah, but there's a professional way to do it.
There is.
And I wanted to give a couple of other examples of similar situations I've had throughout my career where I think I have some credibility in saying, no, I kind of have issues, and I'm going to clean this up later on, but just for people to listen to. another attorney, and I will name him, Daniel Rainick. I don't know if you remember Daniel Rainick. We had an officer that was killed in the line of duty, shot in the face during a traffic stop. Mm-hmm. Good guy. I'm at that trial. I'm testifying. I was the lead investigator, the lead supervisor over the crime scene and putting that homicide together. And I'm testifying in trial. And at one point, instead of referring to the officer by his name, I referred to him as victim. At which point, Daniel Rainick in open court, scolded me, how dare I call him a victim? And he actually asked me, doesn't there have to be a crime? Don't you have to convict somebody of a crime in order to have a victim? And I just remember thinking, this dude's family is there, his friends are there. It's just this terrible thing.
You don't have to convict anyone. You just need criminal activity to take place for somebody to be a victim.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, yeah, he got shot in the face and killed. I think we can call him a victim. I think everybody can agree. And he actually, this was the battle he was going to pick with me on the stand. And again, what is the purpose? What is the point? Just no class, right?
Right.
I had this other case, old case, back in the early 2000s. It had crazy national attention. It took me about 6 years to put the case together. The trial, 7 months.
That is a long trial.
The defense attorney in that case.
I don't know that I've ever heard of a trial going that long.
It's rare. 7 months. It was exhausting. Everything is pretty much circumstantial on this case. There was very little physical evidence. It was an extremely complex, difficult case. But at the core of it, discredit me, attack my credibility in front of the jury, whole case goes away. Mm-hmm. They hired surveillance teams. I actually had people following me around. And I knew
defense hired
the defense attorney, and I actually knew one of them. He and I are actually kind of friends now. It's kind of funny because we'll have conversations sorry, man, I didn't know. But it was interesting. They were stealing my trash because they were trying to get dirt on me, and they would steal my trash, hoping that I was throwing something away that somehow they could link back and use against me.
And they either stole your dog or lost your dog.
Yeah, I had a really, really cool German Shepherd at the time. And I came home one day and my gate was open, my trash cans were empty, and my dog was gone. Sons of bitches. Right?
This one still gets you.
It does. It pisses me off. So again, when I say I've got this issue with defense attorneys. Now this one I don't have an issue with. This one I'm going to tip my hat and say, touche, ma'am. Do you remember the Redheaded Devil?
Yes. Was it Massachusetts?
It was Massachusetts, but she's from Texas.
Okay.
But she took a case in Massachusetts, and she handed me my ass on the stand for 2 hours.
I remember you calling me afterwards.
I didn't even see her. And I've got to give her props because I feel pretty comfortable these days testifying. She took me to task. It was good. And for those of you that aren't tracking about cell phone technology, there's antennas that are mounted on these giant poles or towers, and the direction they point those antennas can be really important. And I remember her asking me, hey, when the engineer or the worker who goes up there and actually bolts the antenna to the tower, does he point that in a direction based on magnetic north or true north? And I actually knew this answer, so I was really proud of myself. I'm like, not today, you little redheaded devil. I got this. So I explained to her, I'm like, no, there's actually this tool that they can put, and it uses magnetic north, and they can face it. And I think she knew the answer.
Well, they never ask a question that they don't know the answer to.
So I'm all excited explaining, oh, no, there's this tool that they can use, and it actually blah, 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 and they can shoot this direction to whatever compass heading they're supposed to, but it's magnetic north. To which she says, that's what I thought. Can you give me the magnetic declination of Boston? And I thought, oh, holy shit. So those of you not tracking.
Never had that question before.
No, this chick, she knew what she was talking about. So there's this giant, I believe it's lead. There's this giant lead mass under the earth up in the North Pole. And I know we're going to get comments. You totally butchered that. There's this big fucking rock, okay? It's underneath the ground, and it's way up on the northern part of our world, and it's not flat. It's like
kryptonite, basically.
Yeah, it's round. It's not a flat Earth in a round Earth scenario. And magnetic north, the needle on your compass will point to that mass of molten whatever it is.
Molten lava.
What people don't realize, it's not affixed. It's not firm. It moves.
Okay.
And it's slowly been migrating over the years. So what a lot of people don't realize, if I'm in Florida and I'm pointing my compass, magnetic north is different than it would be in Seattle or Hawaii or Mexico.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because it's pointing towards that giant molten rock mass that everybody's going to tell me I totally screwed up right now, right? But at the end of the day, how far off the needle points is the declination. So I think the magnetic declination of Boston is 6% or 6 degrees.
Interesting.
But I thought, and once again, I look like an ass clown.
So do you look up the magnetic declination of every city that you go to now?
Every time I testify, I will never, get me once, touche. Get me twice, that one's on me. So yes, I study magnetic declination around the world. That's dumb. And this last one, and then we'll get back to our case here. This last one, you'll enjoy this one. I think you remember this. Thomas Clayton.
This was a big high-profile case in New York.
Yeah, it was out of Elmira, the Finger Lake area of New York. Mm-hmm. Elmira, Corning area. People are probably more familiar with Corning.
Area of New York.
Thomas Clayton killed his wife, and we'll cover that case one of these days. I'll explain to people why I think he did it. I'm pretty sure I know the motive. And I had to testify on the phone records there. The phone records ended up being one of the more important pieces of evidence. It was very contested. And there was an attorney on that case, the defense attorney, Ray Slather, I can't pronounce his name. Slather. It's appropriate. Slathering.
It's a sinister defense attorney name.
I remember walking in, and I want to say this was the second day of my testimony. And I remember walking in, and he was kind of doing a little press conference off to the side, or he had a group of people, and he was talking to them, and I didn't pay much attention. I walked in the courtroom, but one of the detectives was standing kind of over there. And as I was getting ready to get up on the stand, the court hasn't started yet, the detective come up, and he's looking around, he's like, hey, Ray is out there telling everybody to watch this. He's about to take you down.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, really not much on this case to argue about, but okay, so I don't even think twice about it.
Uh-huh.
Slather starts his cross-examination of me that morning, attacking my education, which we've talked about.
Everybody attacks.
Look, and I'll be the first one to admit, I'm a dummy. I'm whatever.
No,
like,
you're not.
I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. Like it's a badge of honor at this point.
You're very modest. You're so modest.
But I don't worry about it. So I'm like, all right, done this, been there, check that box, get your shots in and let's move on. But he keeps escalating. And I'm thinking, this doesn't seem right. He's really getting into this. And he wants to know where I got my associate's degree and what it was in and where exactly was this class and what classes did I take. And I'm thinking,
I know where you're headed with this now. Okay.
And I'm thinking, this is dumb. Okay, yeah, let's talk about my associate's degree. And finally he gets to the punchline. He accuses me, are you ready for this? Mm-hmm. Faking my associate's degree. How low can you go as far as a witness? I have an associate's degree. Well, not really. I really don't. I made that part up because that's the thing I can make up that's going to help me.
Something.
Yeah. So he accused me of not having an associate's degree and just 100% lying. And he actually asked me on the stand. He's like, well, if you have an associate's degree, show me. And I was like, I don't travel around the country with my associate's degree.
You pull it out of your wallet, fold it up into 6 folds.
Like my proud little thing.
It's a little origami swan.
Make the wings move.
Flies to him in the courtroom.
So long story short, I'm thinking, whatever, like this isn't a thing. Well, the prosecutor's freaking out because he's thinking maybe he's making headway with the jury. And my star witness now looks like not only is he a dummy, but he faked an associate's degree. How much worse can it get? Well, because I'm testifying for the defense and the defense isn't done at lunch, I can't talk to the prosecution. They can't talk to me. There's this rule that's in effect. So I just go do my lunch. I don't know anything. I'm fat, dumb, and happy.
I was at home at the time working, and I remember getting a handful of very panicked text messages of, we need Sai's associate's degree. We need his degree. We need proof of it. Fax it to us immediately. And I'm in the middle of calls getting this. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on?
And weird, I didn't have it framed on the wall.
Yeah. In the house that we were remodeling, by the way. So I start myself like digging through boxes in the garage. I was in the attic looking for this associate's degree. I don't think I've ever seen it either.
So I come back from lunch and the defense finishes up insulting me about my manufacturing of
your education,
my glorious associate degree. Now it's the prosecution's time for redirect. Okay. And the prosecutor walks up to me and he hands me this piece of paper. He's like, Mr. Ray, do you recognize that? And I look at it and I'm thinking, holy shit, it's my associate's degree. I'm like, yes, sir, I recognize this. And he's like, and can you please explain to the jury what it is? So I turn around and I show the jury. I'm like, this is my associate's degree. But this is what's settling this crazy, horrible domestic violence homicide is coming down to my stupid associate's degree. And I have no idea how they got it. So later on, I get off the stand. I start asking.
So your credibility was reestablished.
Yeah, thank God I had the associate's degree. But after I get off the stand later on that evening, I'm like, how did you guys get that? He's like, your wife couldn't find it. So we called the Phoenix Police Department. We got a hold of one of their homicide detectives and we explained to them, we don't care what you have to do at that school. You will get his associate's degree. I'm like, who did you talk to? And they gave me the name. And I know the guy, like I know him well. We're pretty good friends.
Yeah,
so I call him later on. He's like, dude, you had no idea. They weren't going to give it to me. And I was like, I'm not leaving here without it. And I'll write a search warrant if I have to. You're giving me that associate's degree. And like, there's this standoff with Phoenix PD and my college to get my associate's degree. The point I'm going at is just those extreme, the tail's wagging the dog at the point, right? With
the extreme
with the
measures a defense attorney will take to avoid anything at all costs of everything real coming out.
Right. So yes, over the years, I have really kind of developed this defense attorneys. Now, I will walk this back a little bit. I have had interactions with really good defense attorneys that I really respect. I would dare to call a handful of them friends at this point that I can kind of just, shoot the shit with and we're good.
Actually, some of them have actually been more nice to you during trials than they are their own witnesses.
I have had multiple cases where I have wrapped up my testimony for the prosecution and the defense attorneys are handing me cards as I'm walking out of the courtroom saying, hey, can I call you on a case? Now, I've never done those. I've never taken one of those cases on. But for a number of years, I had defense attorneys chasing me down the hall after cases.
You have consulted, though, with some of those attorneys.
I've consulted. I haven't gone into court and testified. Mm-hmm. Actually looked at the entire case from a defense perspective.
And pretty much told them, I don't think you want me testifying on your case.
Yeah, I'm probably going to convict your guy, so I'm probably not the best fit here.
Right.
Anyway, the state responds to this hearing, going back to our Anchorman motion to suppress. And is like, okay, this is nonsense. Let's have a hearing. So they call me and they're like, hey, you got to come out for this hearing. They schedule it over 2 days. I fly in. I show up for the hearing. Defense attorneys, Your Honor, we can't have a hearing. I haven't interviewed him yet. I have no idea what he's going to say. I have to have an interview first.
Like a defense interview.
Yeah, which is normal, but you do it before the hearing date.
Well, some states don't have defense interviews.
Correct, but this is as an expert. So most all states will have some type of a process to interview an expert. So the judge is like, all right, well, fine, go do your defense interview. Well, Your Honor, I can't get to it today. I'm going to have to do it tomorrow. So I have to stay the night. I'm waiting to do the interview the next day, and we finally start doing the interview. 6 hours this guy drones on, and it is the worst I've ever experienced. He's insulting. He's just disrespectful. He yells at the prosecutor regularly. He called him stupid 2 or 3 times. And this is a legitimate court process. Mm-hmm. He's asking me all kinds of absurd, ridiculous questions. You know how some people will overwrite? If I'm trying to make a point when I'm writing something and I'm mad, like I write like a little kid. I hold the pen really hard and I'm just pushing down.
The ballpoint goes up into the neck of the pen.
Exactly. He's writing like that, but he's got this little notebook, and every time he writes something down, he rips out the page like over dramatic and he stacks it in the middle, and he just keeps doing this.
And the pen rips the page open.
It is so absurd. And I just remember, I think there was some statement about he told the prosecutor at one point, he's at the intersection of stupid and incompetent or something like that. But he's just flinging these insults the whole time.
What did the prosecutor reply with?
Oh, they're going at it the whole time. It was terrible. At one point, he draws a circle on a piece of paper and he slides it across to me and he says, so you map shapes on a map. I want you to write down the formula of how you find the diameter, the area, and the radius of that circle. Go. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
No, I'm not going to do your math homework. Or are we going to do geography next? Like, what? Stop. Get to what do you need to ask me for this case? And he threatens. He's like, whoa, I guess I'll need to call the judge then to have you answer these questions.
I want to call my mommy.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like the 3rd or 4th time he has said this.
Okay.
So at that point, I'm like, you know what?
Call your mom.
I'll be in the hallway. So I just left. They actually called the judge. And let me tell you, that is something you can do. Nobody does it. You don't bother the judge in the middle of their day because you're having a temper tantrum in an interview. Like, it's just terrible.
More terrible, poor form, decorum.
So I go back, I finish it, and finally they've pushed it so far, there's no way I'm going to be able to testify. It's a Friday afternoon, so I'm flying home. He knows what time my flight is, and I swear he was trying to just push it long enough to delay my flight, so I miss my flight, and then I'm there for the weekend.
What a jerk.
So at one point in my testimony, I'm having to talk about my experience, and I talked about before these cell site simulators, and we would go out and try to find these phones. Well, just the term used throughout law enforcement, it's a mission. You're sitting down, you're planning this mission, you go out and you do it. And I know some people are like, oh, it's a mission. That's because that's what you make that word. That's not what that word means. It's not like this secretive thing, right?
Yeah.
So I was testifying to this, and he was like, oh, this guy thinks he's Jason Bourne going around running missions, and he like just shit like that in court. It just got over the top.
And you're just as good looking, by the way.
Oh, thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
Where were you when I needed you in the... Never mind.
Well, I wouldn't have been able to stand up and say that.
Yeah, on top of the Jason Bourne comment, just the usual completely insulting me on my education, how dumb I was, all these other problems. I fabricate everything I've ever done in my career. You know, all those bodies that I actually did find because, hey, we have the victim's corpse here.
Right.
Oh, no, I made all that up. I didn't really find anybody.
Hidden evidence, guns, everything.
It was over the top. Just a complete lack of professional.
You must have been feeling pretty bad about yourself, especially since this was just after Villaseñor.
I was really, really frustrated with the justice system. Mm-hmm. I had an experience with a judge that I just felt was over the top insanity. And now I'm dealing with this defense attorney. So yeah, I think I was really bitter at the justice system as a whole.
I'm sorry I wasn't kinder to you then.
Oh, thanks. I'll remind you later about that. So the judge is going to hear both sides, and the judge drops her ruling. And let me tell you, this judge, one of the best rulings I've seen.
Good.
100%. I am credible. She found everything that I said very credible, very respectful. The program, the TRAX program is reliable. She's the one that actually came out and said, this whole Colorado thing you keep bringing up, I've reviewed the case. I don't know what that judge is talking about. And this judge has real experience. She just didn't get on the bench a few years ago and then got reprimanded right afterwards.
Well, she wasn't a fill-in.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct. She is legit. So at the end of the hearing, it's the TRAX program is coming in. It's being used. And sure enough, trial happens. The defendant is found guilty because it was really damning. It told the story. So it convicts the defendant, and the defendant goes to jail. Everything's good. Maybe a year passes, and I've got this other case. Another motion gets dropped. And I'm like,
So it's another shit sandwich that you're eating because of the Colorado.
Yes, except this time it's in Arizona. But I know this attorney, and I've worked with this attorney, the defense attorney, before, and he's a good guy. I'm not going to bag on him. I actually kind of like him. Mm-hmm. We've had some really hard cases together, and when I say hard, some of the more difficult, challenging investigations just by the nature of the crime that I've ever worked. But I respect him. He's a good guy. He's very professional. And I'm reading this motion, and sure enough, it's all over again. I'm thinking, oh. So I go back through, and he's quoting some of the same stuff I saw in this
Sex Panther?
The Sex Panther motion. I'm like, oh my God.
Did he call you a sex
He
panther?
didn't. He took all the unprofessional things out, but I could see, okay, there's something to this.
Well, everybody I think is trying to jump on Colorado as a means of
Yes. So I've got to start putting everything together. I'm reviewing, and I'm just getting pissed off again. And I look up this other case, and I realize, like, yeah, the guy is going to prison. That's good. The case is all done. And then I don't know what came over me. I had a moment of weakness.
Yeah, you did.
I decided to send the attorney on the Anchorman Sex Panther case an email.
Well, I think it got you thinking back, and you've got really worked up about it. I remember you telling me how upset you were about that case.
Yeah, so
you were harboring a lot of very angry feelings in there.
I was, but I wanted to be positive about it. So I told him, hey, I just want to take a moment to thank you. And I want to thank you, my experience with you and my interactions with you on this case, and the way that you were unprofessional and your unconventional nature of what you forced me to go through. It really made me better at my job. It made me look at things from a little bit of a different perspective, prepare in a way that I hadn't before. And all in all, that's going to make me better at what I do. So I just wanted to take a second to say thank you. And the more I'm thinking about it, I want to send you something. If you will send me your address, I want to send you a token of my appreciation. That token being a clown suit. I'm going to do the shoes, the nose, the rainbow wig, the giant shoes too, not the little one. I want the big clown shoes, the jumpsuit, the whole enchilada.
Yeah, you said the whole enchilada.
A super legit clown suit to wear for his next circus stunt. And then at the bottom, I actually put, P.S. If you ever visit your client in prison, give him my condolences. I'm sorry he had a clown for an attorney.
I remember I was pretty shocked that you had already pushed the send button.
I thought about it for like half a second. I was like, and I sent it.
Because you were still working for the company that purchased ours. But at the same time, you were still representing that company during this trial. So I was thinking, you are under contract with this company and you're doing this. But at the same time, I'm really proud of you because I was thinking, this is definitely something I would send that he would reprimand me for. So I was in this catch-22.
Now that you say that, I think for the first time, I just realized this is your fault. This was you rubbing off on me. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. This is all your fault. It wasn't a compliment.
I accept blame.
I did think a little bit like, oh, should I have hit send? So I kept it a secret. I told you, but other than that.
You only sent it to him.
Only to him. I was like, I'm just going to let that lie. I told you out of just.
It was fun and entertaining.
Like, and look what I did. I'm a dummy.
But it was gratifying in the moment.
2 weeks later, I get a call actually it was a text message from the prosecutor on that case. He's like, oh my God, I just saw your email about clown shoes. And it went like a viral fire across that entire state. I had people hitting me up all over the state. It's about time somebody said it.
Well, you've worked so many cases in that state.
Yeah, I knew a lot of people, and I was getting all kinds of messages. Like, it was spreading. He showed up in court, and he gave a copy of that email to the judge on that case.
What did the judge say?
I think she smirked a little bit. Like,
well, it was a different case. It wasn't the case.
Yeah, but she was like, what do you want me to do? Get that out of here. It has nothing to do with anything.
Well, she felt the same way. This is the type of guy that if you were a kid on a playground, nobody would play with him.
But we went very quickly from, it was just something that I sent to him, he never responded back to all of a sudden everybody knows about it because he's going around showing people. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just let it play out. And I don't think much more about it. I move on. Well, about this last year, about maybe 2 or 3 months ago.
Serial homicide case.
I'm wrapping up a serial homicide case. And the defense attorney had just finished with their cross and the direct. I'm getting off the stand. It's the end of the day and I'm packing up my stuff. And the defense attorney comes over, good guy. And he's like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I'm like, yeah, sure. So and he kind of makes it clear, like he kind of wants to go off over where nobody can hear us. Like, hey, what's up? And again,
I was wondering what was happening in that corner. Thinking, why is the defense attorney pulling him into a corner? This is weird.
And I respect this guy. I like him. He is a good attorney.
He's a really nice man.
He is very professional. He does his job as a defense attorney very well, so he does what he needs to do, but he does it professionally.
He's very respectful to you when you're on the stand.
We have a mutual respect back and forth. I don't have issues with this guy. And he's kind of looking around. He's like, hey, you're not going to send me a clown outfit or anything, are you? And keep in mind, this is the other side of the country. This isn't anywhere near. And I'm like, oh my God, how do you know about that? And he's like, everybody knows about that. He's like, this is a small world.
All of these attorneys have these secret forums that they all communicate in, and they try to get information on all of their witnesses and dig around with anything that they can.
Oh yeah, as soon as they find out who I am, they'll call everybody else about, hey, tell us about this schmuck and his lack of education.
What other attorney of any kind and prosecutor, defense attorney, or judge is not going to laugh at that?
Yeah, so I think that was, we were talking about, hey, what's our next couple episodes? We got to start planning again. I'm like, let's talk about clown shoes so that it's no more of a secret. Let's just put it out there. Yes, I did it. I probably shouldn't have, but I did. I think he's the only one I would send the clown outfit to. So just because I did it doesn't mean I go around the country sending clown outfits to people, though.
That's good.
But I do think it's worth saying, if you act crazy, unprofessional, and like you're at a circus, there's always a possibility a clown suit could show up.
I would venture to say that you have a very good rapport of excellent court decorum, as well as establishing relationships with not only prosecutors, but defense attorneys across the country. Yeah,
regardless the type of person you are, there is a certain expectation of professionalism in a court, especially in front of a jury. And I think everybody can understand that a witness on the stand in front of a jury is going to be professional, not like they're at home talking to their best friend. And that's just attorneys as well. Attorneys presenting cases are going to be different in that position. Right. And I think we can all just have a mutual respect there. And if you cross that line, maybe you'll get some clown shoes.
It's fair to say that that attorney did need a good spanking.
Yeah, he is a jerk.
Quite frankly, it's his own fault that other people know about it. Why would you send that out to your peers like a little kid, being like, look what he did to me?
And I think he was truly offended by it.
Side pushed me.
Yeah, anyway. So that's it. Easy episode, clown shoes.
Yeah, that was fun. Have a great week, socialites. Stay safe.
The officer that lied to get these search warrants. We've dealt with this officer before, this buffoon of an officer.
I think I live with him.
You do. This week we're going to pull back the layers of salacious headlines that hide the truth. It's a little thing that I like to call propaganda. Yeah.